It's the Auburn Observer Podcast. Hello, one and all. Coming to you on a Monday morning, earliest that anybody's listening to this. We're recording this on Sunday afternoon, early evening. Justin Ferguson here, joined by my co-pilot per usual, Dan Peck. Hello, Daniel.
Ahoy, Justin. Great to see you as always. We are in the Wings 94.3 studio. I want to give a big shout out to our friends at Wings 94.3. They're home for Auburn University athletics in the Auburn-Opelika area. Auburn football, men's basketball, baseball, Tiger Talk. You can catch all that on Wings 94.3. Also classic hits all day long. Got a nice little run going there with some ZZ Top, some Jefferson Starship, some Def Leppard. Always appreciate that our pals at Wings 94.3 let us use the studio. And Justin and I get especially happy when Wings is playing a song that was used as a professional wrestling entrance theme in the 80s.
Back to back. Well, I mean, just professional wrestling themes in general, because we got back to back right now.
Yeah.
We got Jane by Jefferson Starship, which is one of Orange Cassidy's entrance themes, and then Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top, who we were talking about earlier. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin used back in the day. So.
And you'll hear you'll hear the one Modern Day Warrior. Right, Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer.
You'll hear Tom. You'll hear Tom.
Tom Sawyer is definitely on Wings 94.3.
You'll hear Tom Sawyer on Wings 94.3 for sure. So,
lot going on there. Thanks to Wings as always for letting us use the studio. All right, Dan, we are going to recap Auburn basketball's win over Chattanooga, and then we are going to talk a little football before we go. This probably won't be we've done some marathon episodes here recently that have been going like 90, 100 minutes. This one won't be as long, but we'll have another one later this week. We'll preview Auburn-Purdue.
Well, let's be clear. This one shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be that long.
We
but,
could get into that
yeah.
stretch though. There's a chance it could get into that territory.
Into the minutia.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get it started though. Auburn 92, Chattanooga 78. Dan, it's a win for Auburn, but I think Stephen Pearl said it best after the game. You don't want to complain after a win, but the process to get there was not what they wanted. And I thought this was a missed opportunity for Auburn to really take some strides, take some steps forward after that Arizona loss and kind of build up some more momentum before they play Purdue next Saturday in Indianapolis. And quite frankly, they just didn't do it in this game. They won, but this game should not have been where it was. I mean, Tahaad Pettiford hits two late threes to get it to get it to that final 14-point separation. Auburn
it's a 2-point game with 14 minutes left.
Yeah. Auburn has to go on a 12-0 run just to get control of this game. Auburn was favored by around 20 and just did not get it in this game, and never really came close to getting to it. I think 16 was the highest they got, but I mean, every time they got a big lead, Chattanooga came right back and cut into it. And it's a missed opportunity because, like, if Auburn would have come out on Saturday in Atlanta and just blown the doors off of Chattanooga, it doesn't guarantee anything for the future. But in terms of momentum and vibes, you would have felt a lot better. Instead, you're coming out of this game thinking, Auburn did not play particularly well. They won, but that might have had more to do with the fact that Chattanooga is not a very good basketball team right now.
And you've had a couple of performances this year where it's like the thinking going in is this Auburn team locked in and playing well is going to throttle this opponent.
And really, this one and Bethune-Cookman, the Open, are really the only ones. Because, the other paycheck games Auburn's played this year, they beat Maryback by 38. They beat Wofford by 31. They beat Jackson State by 36. So it had been a while since they had one of these games, but it was an opportunity to get back to that, and they did not get there. I think there's some aspects. There's a number of aspects on offense that you'll take for Auburn. Like they did what they were supposed to do on offense, somewhat, in a matchup against a Chattanooga team that was undermanned, undersized, not good on defense. They scored 92. Fine with that for the most part. There were aspects of the game on offense that you like. Defensively, this was very bad. Yeah. This is a very bad game. Like, don't take anything away from Chattanooga and the fact that they run good stuff and, like, they know exactly what they want to do. But Auburn has no business giving up 78 points to this team. No business. Because
it should require, if it happens, it should require like 16 or more threes.
Right.
Too, right? I think you made the point that like
Bethune-Cookman hit a dozen in that opener.
Way too many of Chattanooga's points came around the basket.
Yeah, they hit 22s in this game. The only other time this season Chattanooga had 22s in a game was against Tennessee Wesleyan. Spoiler alert, they had played 2 other NAIA teams. Right? Auburn defensively gave up 2s like they did to Houston and Michigan and Arizona at pretty much the same rate. And that Chattanooga team was not built to do that. And there's so many different ways we can go with this. I'll start. We'll do the classic observe from both of us from this game. I'll start with the defense, and specifically the part of the defense that I think is really hurting Auburn right now is that Auburn's guard defense is not where it needs to be. Nowhere near where it needs to be right now. And you may look at it and say, well, they gave up a ton of 2s. What about the rim protection? Well, it depends on how you guard in this game and how you want to guard, right? Yes, Auburn's rim protection is not what it used to be. No Janai Broom, no Dylan Cardwell. You've had Keyshawn Murphy, and he's been banged up. No more Emeka Opurum for, this season, and we can talk about that later. Really, really tough break there. Very, very, really just a real tough situation. But you don't have that size and that rim protection you usually have. And in this game, Auburn said, look, Chattanooga is going to take a ton of 3s and try to hit a ton of 3s, and that's how they're going to stay in this game. And in the first half, Auburn gave up some wide open 3s. Breakdowns, guys were getting open looks, and they were knocking them down. Second half, they don't. Chattanooga had one of their best 3-point shooters go out early in that game. But second half, they don't. They only hit 2 3s in the second half. But they still score 40. And what Auburn did in this game is they said, hey, one-on-one, stay in front of your man and play defense. And if he's going to try to get to the basket, contest, make it tough, because we're going to have the size to clean it up.
You don't want to send help against Chattanooga.
No, because they're just going to stay on the perimeter and knock it down.
Yeah, you do not want to send help. You need to win your one-on-one matchups around the basket.
And look, again, no disrespect to Chattanooga, but you're Auburn. You're in the SEC. That's a SoCon team. You should be able to guard these guys one-on-one.
Watching this game, I thought about the comments that Dan Hurley made earlier this week when he talks about – it's a CBS story where he mentions that like if he has his way, UConn might play – very few or 0 bye games in the years ahead because isn't the exact quote, every time I wake up on the day of a bye game I want to kill myself? Yeah, I want to die. I believe is the quote. And he explains it in a little more detail where he says because you have the concern like getting your players locked in, getting your players to like the fact that you can win and still not be terribly impressive, and if you lose, it can be devastating, short term and long term for your season. Like he just would rather lose to an opponent where it feels like you were it's someone on equal footing or someone who even has more than you.
Well, and it's like for Chattanooga, like after the game, their coach Dan Earl said like I think Auburn had a hard time getting up for this one. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's definitely, and he was very honest. He was like, "Look, they probably looked at us and said, "Oh, they're banged up. They don't have size. We could like walk in here and rough them up." Auburn didn't do that, and I think
Auburn was. It felt like Auburn's defense was expecting this game to be played at the 3-point line,
right?
And Chattanooga's willingness to say, we're going to take the fight. It was.
We can get a step on these guys.
Yeah,
we can get to the basket, and we're not. And the trees that Auburn may have compared to us down low might not be there to protect it because they're staying so strict one-on-one because they don't want to help off and leave shooters. That's the problem. You look at this game, Chattanooga had hardly ever taken 2s to this degree, and they hit him. A 6-foot guard hit 6 in this game. Yeah. A 6'2" guard hit 5.
This isn't us being able to say, well, hey, you're not going to see a front court like Arizona.
They're not just going to put it up and over you. Right, which, Arizona did that again Saturday night against Alabama, where it's just like, yeah, that size is for real. And like you have, but go back to
Arizona scored like 15 points in a minute and a half stretch in that game. Like it was when they get rolling.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
It's the boulder chasing Indiana Jones.
It was like the first half, like Alabama's up at halftime, and I think Pete had 2 points. And I was like, well, that's not going to last.
No.
But anyway, go back to the Arizona game for Auburn. And afterwards, Stephen Pearl said, I don't really think it was our lack of size in the front court that hurt us on defense. It's the fact that our backcourt just was not doing anything. Mm-hmm. Couldn't stay in front of you. There are some reasons for that. Like, okay, these are not excuses, but these are some more explanations for why Auburn might have been as rough as they were on the defensive end in this game in the backcourt. Number one, Kevin Overton tweaks his ankle in warmups, and it shows in that first half. There are a few times that he gets hit with a screen and he just doesn't move. And so Auburn shuts him down in the second half. Tahaad Pettiford, statistically their best defensive guard in that game, like plus minus, he had a
Could you tell Overton was battling through?
Yes.
That hobbled a little bit.
He did not look like himself on defense. He didn't look like himself on defense at all.
And that's too bad, because that's a guy who played so well against St. John's.
Yeah.
And you thought maybe he was finding himself and building some momentum.
Yeah.
And
played really well against NC State too.
And played well against NC State, and you were sort of hoping he could get on a roll, and that hasn't happened of late.
And Pettiford gets a third foul early in the second half. He has to sit out, and they had to put Magwood in. And look, Caden Magwood does really good stuff on offense. Just defense, he's not getting the results that Auburn wants on defense right now. Same thing. Like Simon Walker comes in the game and hits 2 big threes. Simon Walker's having a hard time keeping his man in front of him, right? These are freshmen. These are freshmen who are not far along on defense yet. That's just the reality of the situation that Auburn's in. So if your best defensive guard is hurt, and then the only other one with any experience in that backcourt, your ones and your twos, and Tahaad Pettiford, he's in foul trouble. That hurts you. It makes an impact.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin. On the previous episode of this show, we wondered about, like, hey, if Tahaad or Kevin Overton were to turn an ankle and have to miss extended time,
right?
It's gonna
and we're gonna have to keep an eye on Overton this week.
Yeah,
you're just gonna have to.
And I think you even said you correctly predicted. You're like, they would probably slide Freeman. I mean, you're talking about Freeman and Hall. Mm-hmm. As your backcourt, like as your 2 and 3, as your wings, and Sebastian and Murph as your front court.
Your backcourt defense, though, it's just, there's this thought process, right? And it's like a pet peeve of mine where it's like when people talk about rebounding, they're like, "Oh, it's all effort," or "It's mostly effort," and it's like, I don't think so. I think rebounding, a lot of it is effort, but you need to have size. You need to have the ball bounce your way a few times, especially when you play a team that takes a lot of long shots. It's just long shots, long rebounds. I'm of the opinion, though, when it comes to perimeter defense, a lot of it is effort. Like, make an effort. And Auburn's effort level and body language on defense throughout this game was nowhere where it needed to be. And Chattanooga took full advantage and was able to hang in this game because they had confidence. They felt like, if we just run our stuff and take care of the ball, we're going to get a good look. And yes, they should get credit for hitting shots that they hadn't been hitting this season. But again, at the end of the day, you're an SEC guard, and that's a SoCon guard. You've got to do better. And the backcourt, anybody, and again, I say backcourt, there were lineups that Chattanooga was throwing out there that were all guards. So, like, everybody's involved in this. But this perimeter defense, like, teams are just getting to their spots. Arizona did it a ton. Definitely Michigan did it. And then you saw Chattanooga do it in this game. And look, it's alarming, I think, for Auburn's defense. I think the glass half full approach for it is, we've seen this team sit down and guard. Second half against Houston in that comeback. Mm-hmm. Definitely the second half against St. John's, NC State. Mm-hmm. We have seen them against good competition sit down and guard. We've also seen them get shredded on defense. And for, like, even with guys getting banged up, even with guys in foul trouble, there's got to be a point, though, where it's like, find some guts about you and go out there and just make an effort, right? Right? Like, that's the other thing that's really tough about this defense right now is that if you're not communicating or if you're blowing your keys,
that's the communication.
Well, here's the thing. Here's my point. If you're not communicating, you're not connected yet on defense, you're blowing your keys, you don't have that chemistry on defense yet. That's one thing, and that's something you have to work through. But it's a completely other thing. It's like if you just bust your tail and stay in front of your guy as best as you can and make that effort, you're gonna get stops. You're gonna make plays. This was a very alarming stat in this game. Chattanooga turned the ball over 6 times. Okay. Turnover
once in the first half, right?
Right.
Yep.
Turnover rate in this game for Chattanooga, okay? There have only been 2 games in the last decade for Auburn that have had a lower defensive turnover rate. Duke last season, and Duke was Duke. And then the Miami game in the NCAA tournament in the Jabari Smith Walker Kessler year.
The less said the better about
Right.
that Miami game.
So, okay. If you're given the effort you need to on defense, even if you're making mistakes, even if you're not connected, right? You have the length and the athleticism and the physicality that you should be able to, especially against a team like Chattanooga. And I know Chattanooga doesn't turn the ball over a ton, but you should be able to be disruptive. And that's a big problem with this defense. You don't have size. You don't have the usual size. You don't have the usual defensive pedigree that you've had for Auburn. And you knew that going into this season, it was going to be a work. But what did they talk about all preseason? Like even before the coaching change? You're going to have to press more. You're going to have to create more turnovers. You have to create more havoc because that's going to be how this defense survives, right? Doesn't mean you give up on your half-court defense. Like you can still get better in your half-court defense, but this defense is going to need to take some possessions, go create some havoc out there, and they're not. Yeah. And when that happens, what you are left with is an undersized defense that is just not getting the job done.
Yeah, the thought that this is a team that probably needs to turn up the pressure.
Yes.
But you don't necessarily see that urgency from
when
the
they
defense.
pressed, they got some results off of it, but then they also gave up some open looks off of it. It just was not working.
How about this, Justin? It might be a team that needs to crank up the pressure, but players that aren't terribly comfortable playing in playing pressure defense. I don't know how much pressure defense these guys have played, in their careers, right before coming to Auburn.
And after the game, you hear Keyshawn Hall say our defense was terrible, and it was like they were going through the motions, and they were, and Stephen Pearl said it after the game. They felt like they needed to have 3 good days of practice and come in and play hard and play because that's the thing about this team. They're talented. They can win, right? They've got enough talent to beat good teams this season. But this is not a team that has the continuity, that has the experience, that has the, I don't know. I wrote about it on Sunday. In years past, we have seen Auburn give less than 100% and be fine. And it might not be happy with it, but like,
is it a talent cushion? Almost like teams like Auburn's teams the last couple of years were so much better than their opponents.
And I think on paper talent, I don't think there's a ton of difference between this and maybe some of the last few teams. I think the experience and the continuity was like, you can kind of lean back on it. Okay, well, maybe it's defensive ability.
And rim protection can be such an eraser on those things.
Yeah, it can clean up a lot of stuff.
And not even pre-Janai, right? You had the Walker Kessler team. And even those first couple of teams that finally started to turn the corner for Bruce, like rim protection was a big part of that.
Always.
And
that's not just blocking shots, but it is a big part of that. Here's my big thing, though. The identity of this basketball team, with the way you are built, needs to be you play all out for 40 minutes, no matter who's on the floor, right? Give your best effort and live with the good and the bad that comes from that. But effort can erase a lot of your mistakes, especially matchups like this. And you did not see a team that looked motivated and playing with that effort and intensity. And guess what? The Bethune-Cookman game showed this. The this game right here showed it.
And
and the 2 blowout losses showed it as well. It's like if you don't give that effort and energy, you can be in a situation you want to be in, whether it is a closer game than you want against teams that shouldn't be on the same level as you, or you play against a really good team, and they will blow the doors off of you.
And most of the games where you can win playing like this, you've already played.
Yeah,
Like,
got one more. Got one more.
Yeah,
got one more.
Yeah, one more. Mostly, and then you get into conference play where and that's something. Yeah, I think you're right. Like that's where it becomes, and I think
you got to have better effort. Play a better effort. Like, you're gonna have breakdowns. You're gonna have miscommunications. You're gonna have issues on defense because you're young and you've got 10 new guys and you're still trying to figure it out. But you can't be that and lackadaisical on the defensive end. If you do that, you get ripped up.
You got trouble.
Yes.
You got trouble, like the Music Man said.
Yeah.
Now adding to
that's
those,
my first point.
But I will. How about this? Compounding those problems, it's very difficult to be an up-tempo pressure defense with a lack of depth, because then you're asking guys to play 35 plus minutes a game, where it's like they're going to be expected to give all out and be a pressure defense and produce the way you expect on offense. Like, that's where one of the weapons the last couple of years, when you wanted to crank up the pressure,
and you don't have that depth, and some of that is injuries, some of that is things haven't clicked for years, the youth and that inexperience. But yeah, I mean,
and that could be a problem. The idea that this is a defense that needs to turn up the pressure, and they don't have the depth to give some guys breaks or spell them.
Yeah,
like that.
But even then, man, like, I'm not saying go full court press all game. I'm just like, even in the half court, just be more disruptive. Like, you were being way too passive on the defensive end, especially at guard, because guys are getting to their spots, whether they are, no disrespect, whether they are UTC guards in the SoCon, these guys who are playing D2 ball and bouncing around the mid-majors, or they're from Arizona and Michigan and they used to be 5 stars and they were the elites of the elite. Like, either way, you got to give more effort in that. And I think you've seen that at times. Like, I thought, especially the second half against St. John's, and then think about how much talent that NC State team had at guard. You've been able to do that. But it's like, this ain't a switch on and switch off thing. You don't have that luxury anymore. But yeah, that depth, I think these guys can physically, I think Auburn's got the dudes who can physically hold up to play these long stretches of these games. But yeah, it does get tougher. I do think, though, it's like, you can't use your lack of depth. Like, you can't take it easy. No. Can't coast. Nobody can coast. And it's like,
because lack of depth, while valid, ultimately it's an excuse, right? So it's like, is that going to be the reason that you don't play defense to the standard, or is it going to be something, or is it going to be adversity that you overcome?
I think about, like, last season, Dan. Your three. I'm rolling it down here. Yeah, your 3 best defenses in college basketball last season: Houston, St. John's, and Tennessee. Did not play deep rotations. No. They didn't. They had dudes out there.
Uniquely shallow rotations, I think, in the case of, like, Houston and St. John's. Like,
Tennessee as well. Like, Tennessee did not go deep on their bench. But what they had, though, were guys that were going to give their all, and they were just in great shape. And I think physically, Auburn's got dudes who can play heavy minutes, right? Like, they've got, and they're at a time of the year now where you got some spacing where you can do that. But you can't be playing 30-plus minutes and not – and taking it easy, or taking possessions off on defense and getting lost out there, or you're getting ball watching. And it's just like, yeah, everybody involved's got to do it. And again, it would be one thing if we were sitting here and talking about this Auburn defense and saying, we have not seen them play well this year on defense. That's not true. We've just seen it inconsistently. Yep. I think part of that is because they don't have that experience and that continuity together. But I think a bigger part of it is you just got to have, there's got to be a want to, right? And, Stephen Pearl talking after the game, him and his coaching staff, he's like, look, we got to have better week practice. We got to get more motivated. We got to get, you got to get fired up, right? And I think the lack of motivation, there was no lack of motivation against Arizona or Michigan, right? You just got whooped in those games. There won't be a lack of motivation on Saturday against Purdue. But it's like, do you have the toughness, and do you have the mental fortitude that when things aren't necessarily going the way it should be, can you push through, and can you fight through on the defensive end. If you can, you're in a fine spot because I think this offense has got real potential, and I think you saw some more of that on Saturday.
And that's going to be, I think that I'm actively trying not to reference like last year's team as much as I do. Although I think that it's
just a completely different team. It's a completely different makeup.
But I think there are like elements of this year's team where it's like it gives you a further appreciation for what you saw the last couple of seasons because you could take it for granted.
Last season's team, they went all in on experience and continuity because they could.
Yes.
And then it was like, okay, you get that result, and just know that on the other side of it is you're going to have to hit the reset button. Well, welcome to the reset button.
And maybe on last year's team, you had a couple more guys who profiled as defense first or players that were known for their defense. Feels like there's going to be there's going to be a mentality change required for some of these. Like, I mean, if you're Tahaad or you're Keyshawn Hall, or even Elyjah
Freeman, Kevin Overton.
Like
those guys have shown the ability on defense, especially Freeman and Overton. I think Tahaad's made strides on defense.
I think Freeman's my first point. I think Elyjah Freeman and the story about the moving him into a reserve role, the story about like that being his idea to get Sebastian going, and also Elyjah Freeman having
great game.
Yeah, I mean a great game
on offense,
and being a guy that you could argue is one of the 3 or 4 best players on the team right now. And it's like this was a dude playing at Lincoln Memorial last year, and not just what a find, but what would this picture look like without Elyjah Freeman?
Yeah,
right now, or if he were someone who needed a lot more time to adjust to Division I basketball than 10 games.
And look, he'd had some rough games. He had a rough game against Arizona, and he had did not think he had a very good game against Michigan either, off the top of my head. But I think Freeman, him being willing to go to the bench. And look, if Auburn wanted to do that, they were going to do that. But the fact that Freeman was very forthcoming and like, hey, if we want to get our assist numbers up and we want to get off to better starts, well, Sebastian Williams-Adams is our best playmaker right now in terms of assist to turnover ratio. He's number 2 on the team in assist rate. Put him in there. I'll come off the bench. I think it profiles really well for him because I think Sebastian's such a good two-way player. He's one of your better defenders. He is a good distributor, all that. He can do some of everything. That needs to work if you're wanting to get off to better starts. And then meanwhile, what is Elyjah Freeman? Super athletic, super just a guy who can come in and be a spark. And then what else did Auburn need? Arizona and some of these other Michigan, they got nothing from their bench in that game, right? And so at least now you can stagger your rotations a little bit more, where it's like, okay, once we start going onto the bench, we've got guys who can score. We got guys who can fill it up. And I think Elyjah Freeman needs to get more aggressive on both ends of the floor. I think his shots against Chattanooga were good. The fact that he took, 6 threes was a good sign. But we've seen it at times this year. When he is giving it that effort and energy and locked in doing what he's supposed to on defense, he's disruptive. Yep. He's got some of that Okoro, Okiki kind of potential on defense where it's like, oh, that guy's just going to make cause problems because he's so long and he's so athletic and he's so. And you can't expect him to do that every single possession because that's just not where he is. That's just not his game, and he doesn't have that experience yet. But I think the change makes a ton of sense, right? I think for Auburn, it gets more Sebastian Williams-Adams is a better thing. I think for your defense overall, I think it's better for your distribution, your ball movement, and
when Freeman's rolling, when he's actually especially on offense. When he can hit from the outside, when he's got his options, that's a handful for that's a tough defensive matchup.
I think defensively, if you're looking at the 3 and the 4, and I think if defensively Freeman and Hall versus Hall and Sebastian Williams-Adams, I think the latter is the better combo there, and it showed in this game. Very good that you saw Auburn. Not only does he have that humility and that willingness, that team first mentality to approach the team with that, the coaching staff with that, and say, hey, let's do that. I know I'm going to play. He said that after the game. He's like, I know I'm going to play, but let's change some things up. We want to get off to better starts. We want to share the ball better. Let's make that move. And then I think you saw the benefit of it in this game for offense. Auburn's offense never really had a tail-off portion in terms of production because they were able to kind of cycle things out a little bit more, and it ended up being a really good move because with Overton not being able to play as much in the second half, both Sway and Freeman play the whole second half, and, some of Auburn's best basketball in this game came with them on the floor together.
Yeah, that's maturity, that's confidence, that's wisdom there from a guy who's played some college basketball and has seen some things and knew enough to do that. And the fact is, depending on what happens with Kevin Overton,
right,
he might be back in the starting lineup anyway.
Right.
I mean, it could be it could be the Keyshawns and Elyjah and Tahaad and Sebastian. That could be your starting five if Overton's not ready to come back.
All right, my second point. Let's talk ball movement. We talked about how the assist rate needed to go up, and it did in this game. Auburn had 17 assists on 26 made baskets. 17 assists was the tie for the season high. It was a big change from those last couple games. Look, Chattanooga's defense is not very good. They're small. There were going to be plenty of catch and shoot opportunities in this game. And like get, when they ran zone, get to the middle, get those dump off passes. But yeah, 6 assists from Keyshawn Hall, 5 from Sway, 3 from Caden Magwood, just 2 from Tahaad Pettiford. That number's got to go up.
The thing that's really changed my mind the last couple of games is like going into the season, I thought that you could see like sort of a D'Antoni approach in the half court with Tahaad, where it's like, all right, you need to throw a lot of high screen and rolls at people or a lot of high screen action and just sort of figure out is Tahaad going to shoot? Is he going to go to the basket? Is he going to kick? Whatever. It feels like now the priority for this team when they get in a half court offense is whether it's Sebastian or whether it's Keyshawn Hall, getting to like around the free throw line,
high post.
High post, getting like some elbow action. And letting them create off of that, like that's the toughest thing. Because then, obviously the perimeter game is out there with the shooters.
Auburn hit 11 threes in this game.
Could be somebody cutting to the basket, like points in the paint or on the table, and letting Keyshawn Hall create from the elbow.
Yeah,
would be like that's about as good as you've got in the half court right now.
And I thought Keyshawn Hall did a good job of this game of not just being I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to go to the basket. He does get the free throw line a lot. But he also has 6 assists.
And when you're worried he's going to pass, it makes it easier for him to go to the basket when he decides he's going to put his head down. But when he becomes predictable, then it's just, and that was something Arizona, like where Arizona actively talked about trying to make him one-dimensional and then defending that one dimension, because that is a guy, like if you can get him to forget all the different tools he's got in his toolbox, and he just goes to the hammer,
becomes a sledgehammer.
Yeah, it's like no, you can do all these other things too, and I think some more of that was on display, even without
cut down his turnovers too,
even without hitting from 3. I mean, if he hits a couple of the threes that he's hit all season, he has a phenomenal game. Yeah, like it's already a really good game. But
22 at 11 and 6 is really good with 2 turnovers, knowing his usage rate.
And that's with a couple of looks that he usually hits at the 3 not going his way.
And with Key, I think it's just you have to. It was easier to do that against Chattanooga, right? But have that mentality, make that adjustment, make that switch. Don't just it can't just be drive to the basket, and it can't just be Tahaad Pettiford, creating off of, those high screens or stuff like that. Like ball movement.
The eagerness to take difficult shots.
They did it a few times in this game.
But Keyshawn especially, I think there was an eagerness earlier in the season that feels like it's, even though he can hit some of them and he can draw fouls on some of them, you feel like the best thing possession by possession for the offense is for that to be like a last resort.
Yeah, definitely. Here's my take on this with the offense. You have Mike Burgermaster. You have a built offensive system that has gotten results. You have plenty.
You got the burger chef.
You have plenty of offensive
cooking up.
You have plenty of offensive weapons too. So this doesn't need to become ISO ball. This doesn't need to become a 1 or 2 man game. Like this needs to be ball movement, hockey assist. Like you need this thing popping around, and you saw it a lot more. Now, late in the first half, it gets away from them again. They have some bad turnovers. They're not assisting as much. They're forcing some shots. Again, it's just a reminder. And in this game, again, it was Chattanooga. But, like, for Auburn, like, if they had just stuck to their offense, they'd have easily had 100 in this game, and it would have been, like, they were getting whatever they wanted. Shot nearly 50% in this game. 37% from deep. Got to the free throw line a ton. Dominated the offensive glass. Got second chance points. Like, the things you need to do in this game, just don't force bad passes and don't force tough shots. Run smart stuff and you're going to be fine. And I thought in this game, the ball movement, everybody getting involved in this one and making sure that ball was popping around was key. Because if this team's not sharing the ball, you're taking a lot of life out of this offense. Because this offense is pretty good, right? 13th right now in KenPom in offensive efficiency. That defensive number needs to go way up, right? They're in the 70s right now. That defensive number needs to go way up. But this is one of the better offenses in college basketball when they're clicking. You've got way too many weapons. You've got Hall. You've got Pettiford. Both had 20. You had Elyjah Freeman get 19. And then you had other guys pitching in a lot more. Mm-hmm. And that's, like, even still, I know it was NC State and it was a much better team, but, like, this was a much better offensive flow than the NC State game. The NC State game was, you had two guys hitting a lot of tough shots and you weren't playing great team offense around it. This was really good team offense, and you're just going to have to keep that going. This is a non-negotiable from here on out.
The offense, again, and yeah, it's worth pointing out, like Chattanooga versus NC State, difference in talent, but still, what Auburn's approach offensively felt far more sustainable in this game. Like, what they were trying to do felt like something that could work. And like what I think,
it looked a lot more like the St. John's game and the Houston game.
I think what you were watching against against NC State, it's like Auburn's winning, but is this going to work most nights? Is this going to work when you get into conference play?
As two guys getting hot and you just fed them,
right?
But yeah, it's big. All right, what you got?
Let's talk Tahaad. Let's talk about the Cape Crusader a little bit.
This was a pretty good game for him when he was out of foul trouble. He needs to get more assists.
The last 5 or 6 games, I believe he's got more turnovers than assists, right? And that
might be the course for this season.
Yeah,
it's just that's not where you need it to be. That's got to get better. Everything else, though, I think is really coming along. I mean, his shot, he's 5 of 9 from deep. I know he hit a couple late ones, but he was still shooting the ball pretty well before that. He got to the free throw line, led the team in plus minus in the second half. Like, it was a big difference when he was on the floor, when he wasn't on the floor.
How much did he not play in the second half too? Because I know the rotations.
He had a couple stretches early where he didn't play.
I know the rotations tight. Was it Sebastian who didn't leave the floor in the second?
And Elyjah.
And Elyjah. I mean, you got a couple guys that were out there the entire time.
Pettiford, I think, has made strides on defense. I think when he's locked in on defense, there's a big difference for Auburn. And I think some of it might be by comparison to the fact where when you're comparing it to Magwood or comparing it to some of the other guards Auburn has, the older guy is better on defense right now. There's some of that to that. But I do think he is getting active. He's making it happen. The other thing there is, like, he's hitting shots. I know there were a couple of those threes late, but he had a pretty good game outside of that already, scoring the ball. He's got 20 again in this one. His last 5 games, he's shooting nearly 50% from deep, and he's more than doubled his three-point attempt or his three-pointers from the first 6 games. First 6 games, he was shooting less than 20% from beyond the arc. Now he's up to 50%. In these last few games. Since the start of Players Era, he's averaging 20.5 a game, and that includes that NC State game where he was off and just didn't really have it. That's what you want. You want him to be more of a distributor and more of a floor general, right? Those assist numbers have to go up, especially if you're going to have some of those turnovers. Those assist numbers have to go up. However, if you are getting assists from other guys, I mean, the scoring's really, really what you want. And it just changes so much. Like when that guy is hitting, it just now the defense has to change. Now the defense has to shift. He's playing really well right now, and not perfect. Got to stay out of foul trouble. Got to get those assist numbers up. But I do think, Dan,
it's the difference. You know what? This is
most of everything else to his game, like besides the assist right now. I think you're seeing him take that step to being that all-around player he came back to Auburn to try to be.
It shows you what like a healing ointment hitting shots can be.
Oh yeah,
right. Because if he were struggling to hit, and everything else you just said was true, it would be like a crisis, right? Yeah. Where it's like, all right, well, these, but instead it's like he's and maybe crisis is a little strong, but the fact is, like when he's hitting his shots, it's about, All right, well, you'd like to see some of the point guard numbers
Yeah.
look a little bit better. You'd like to see some of the defensive numbers improve.
And my thing with the assist numbers is they have to get better, especially compared to the turnovers. You have to. And he's taken a step back in terms of his assist turnover ratio than he was last season when he was coming off the bench for Auburn. Right? Obviously, different team, different. Teams are guarding him differently. He's higher up on the scouting report now. I will say the other thing though, yes, he's got to get the assist numbers up. I'll say it a billion times. I've already said it a billion times. But the fact that this is a top 15 offense and he's running the show, I think, it's not terrible. It's not like it. He's not getting the assist, but it's not like he's not running the offense, right? Like the offense is when the offense is clicking, the offense is looking good. He's at the center of it,
and his catch and shoot game is still really, really effective.
And if you've got a wing like Key Hall that is going to get the ball in his hand and pound it and either get to the basket or create off of it, you need your point guard to be able to catch and shoot. He doesn't need to be able to be a guy who can just only go get his shot off the bounce.
It's a funkier way to generate offense, but the fact is, if you've got those pieces working together, if you've got posts who can create and wings who can create, and you have guards.
Think about how much Auburn ran their offense through their center last season, and their point guard was a two guard who had a good catch and shoot game.
And I wonder, how much of what you just described with Janai and Denver might work with Keyshawn Hall and Tahaad.
Keyshawn's got that passing ability, right? He can get sloppy with the ball. He can get a little too headstrong going to the basket at times, and the stripping and ripping will hurt. But when he's head up and he's looking to distribute as much as getting shot. And look, I'm not thinking he's a guy who's going to score. He's a bucket getter. I'm not going to sit here and say I think he's just super selfish or anything on offense. I don't think it's that. I think it's when he's got a more all-around approach to his game, everything does better. And that we'll take that into my third point. Keyshawn Hall, 22, 11, and 6. It was more than just getting buckets for him in this game, right? You were talking about not having 3-point. But 11 rebounds, 6 assists. This was his best all-around game in a month.
Sounds like rebounding is the thing that he's really proud of how he's changed his approach as a college basketball player.
He's got to get boards, especially with a team that doesn't have traditional size. Now, Murph, 9-9, pretty good game. He only played 22 minutes. He's not getting heavy minutes because he's still coming back from the issues that he's had. But you need your guy to rebound down from the 3 and the 4 spot, especially if he's at the 4. But you get it at the 3 as well. You saw Elyjah Freeman get 7 boards in this game. And look, Chattanooga was tiny. You were always going to kill him on the glass. But having that, him saying hey, I'm going to clean it up, right? And that's my thing with Keyshawn Hall. There are going to be defensive breakdowns. There are going to be issues. There's going to be mistakes. He's got to be a guy that I think has got to give more effort on the defensive end and step that up. That's just not, he's just not a defensive guy. But he's got to work harder to be a better defense guy because that's a huge reason why he's here. I will say that, Dan, more than just the scoring, if he's rebounding and assisting, it can make up for some of the things that he's done. I'm not saying it absolves him, and I'm not saying you need to. He gets wipes all that out. But, it's one thing that's okay, there's some defensive issues here, and all he's doing is giving you points. Well, it doesn't matter if he's giving you points if he's giving up points on the other end. But if he's working hard to get better on defense and, they're cleaning up, when the other team misses a shot, he's going and getting it. Or he's making things happen on offense for other guys, and it's not just him. That's more of an all-around team player that you need from a guy like this. And we have seen there was a beginning of the season before he got hurt, he was in the KenPom National of the Year ratings because he was just doing some of everything really, really well. And it's you need more of that out of Key Hall. In this game also, again, him and Tahaad plus 21 and plus minus in a game they won by 14. So it's the defense was a little better when he was on the floor at times. So you got to interesting, very interesting numbers from him. You got to have more of that. You got to have more than that. It can't just be points. And he's not a guy who's just only hunting points, but that shows you the value he brings just more than being a guy who scores.
My third point will provide us an opportunity to talk about some of the players that aren't in the rotation and sort of where things stand right now because you could mention, and we could talk about Emeka because we just sort of casually, we get the news that he's.
Yeah, so the news comes out on Saturday morning that Emeka Opurum is out for the rest of the season due to a medical issue. Stephen Pearl said after the game that, he couldn't share the details of it out of respect for Emeka's privacy. I don't know all the details of it. I don't know much about it at all.
I'll tell you what, the way they're talking about it,
it's serious.
Tells you that it is
serious, and this goes beyond like, it's something injury related.
No.
Yeah, like it's something that they want to make sure that, his privacy is protected, whatever this is. And it's something that, Pearl said after the game they hope he can come back from and like be an inspirational story. But it is a blow because now you were like, any injury to that front line, Jovic, Sway, Murph, you were.
So like when Opurum wasn't playing, you were thinking like, okay, well in an emergency he might need to be an option, and now that's off the board.
And in
for the
certain
time
matchups,
being.
he was a better fit because again he's tall, but he's not like bulky, like not super physical up front. At this point in his career, he's a guy.
And I was, going into the season, I was more worried about like how important Keyshawn Hall and Keyshawn Murphy were going to be to that front court, just because the other guys were making the jump from high school and Division II basketball and
good news
junior
is
college
Sway
and
looks
Europe.
ahead of schedule, and I think Phillip keeps coming along.
Yeah. Jovic and Sebastian, I think, are both, considering that you're talking about a guy who was a high school senior last year and a guy who was in Europe last year. Yep. Like the fact that they both look to be as ready to contribute and as advanced as they are, that's huge, because without it, you'd be really like watching a team that just doesn't have enough in the front court. Mm-hmm. Like watching a team that's too small, like that has some talent, but it just can't muscle up around the basket. It's like it gets repetitive and discouraging.
Well, and that's my thing too, is like if you aren't going to have that as much size and that height and that bulk as you used to, you got to have the stuff. Your backcourt's got to step up, and you got to go above and beyond. The problem right now is you're getting inconsistent defensive effort for that backcourt, and your backups you can get some good stuff on offense from, Caden Magwood, and in this game, Simon Walker, but you can't be giving up. You can't be giving up stuff on the other end as easily.
I'll tell you that's maybe the surprise to me, is that I thought, because of the nature of playing around the basket and the fact that you're seeing grown men and how physical that game can be, I thought that guys like Sway and Jovic would really struggle with the college game, especially defensively. Mm-hmm. And the bigger adjustment has been guys like Magwood and Bashir. And
the thing
Simon.
with Bashir, I was like, I don't know when we're going to see him again. And it's just like the more time he misses, and he's not dressing out. He's not practicing. He had that back issue and he had that illness, and it's like it might be a situation where you might not see him for a while.
And we've seen when they've made appearances, both, and I haven't been to every game, but I've been to enough of them where it's like I've seen Magwood and Bashir and Simon all get the business from Steven.
Magwood got it again last night. And then like Simon Walker hits 2 threes and doesn't even play in the second half. And it's just like you got to give more on the defensive end. And look, like I'm not expecting these guys to be Denver Jones or Isaac Okoro on the defensive end, but it's like you can't be a negative. Mm-hmm. You can't be a negative as much. So they got to continue to find ways to step up.
At least give me like Colorado Springs Jones, right? If you can't be.
Can you be Aurora Jones? No, but it's like if you're going to be out there, you got to be able to give it. And like you got to give that effort. You can't have mental breakdowns. You can't give up easy stuff. And look, that doesn't anybody who played defense on Saturday, like nobody's getting the pass here. Even though I said I think you saw some more out of Pettiford, but you had Overton being even with all that, you got to be better. I think that's what's limiting this team is that, okay, now you're going to put even more and more pressure on your starters to step up in there. And I think they can be better and they have to be better, but you are seeing those weaknesses. I will say, though, for both of those guys, for Magwood and Walker, the Pettiford-Magwood backcourt early in the first half looked good. Like it was good. If either one of those guys can just give you a little more, can just give you more on defense, the offensive stuff's there for them. Simon Walker can shoot the leather off the ball. And I think Caden Magwood is a very gifted offensive talent.
Yeah. I like Magwood shows you a little bit more every time he plays, and like you said, it's
3 points and 3 assists in 11 minutes in this game.
And it's got to be it's got to be tempting
13,
when the offense hits a lull. It's got to be tempting to pull that Simon lever and think like, oh well, maybe
his catch and shoot game's great, man.
Yep,
it's really really good, but you can't be a negative on defense. And those guys are freshmen. You got to give them time. You got to give them patience. But you're about to approach a time where you're not going to be able to have as much patience. So it's something you're going to have to work through. But again, it's like if everybody else on that guard, if they can pick it up, you'll see where it goes. The Mech thing, though, to put a bow on it, like the Mech thing is brutal. Because, I thought he was a guy that could have been in line to be getting more playing time. Could have been in a spot where if Auburn's defense was hitting you and going down this path, he could have been heading in that direction.
Was it NC State where he's out there working after the game's over, like with journalists still typing their stories up in the up in the press box? Yeah. So
tough blow. Hopefully he can come back. Whatever this situation is, first and foremost, whatever this situation is, hopefully he can get past it and get back to playing ball again. And secondly, I think he is a great candidate to be a year two, take that massive step forward. I'll be interested to see what he's able to do here in this waiting process.
And so much is different. Stephen talked about like the guy coming to America and then making the jump from junior college ball to the SEC. Like the last few months have been a whirlwind for him, assuredly. And something like this is just, it's difficult at any time in your life to receive news that like you have a serious medical situation and it's going to require a lot of your attention and energy over the next couple of months, but especially for him. So I hope that just wish him and his friends and family all the best.
So we'll say Mech, and I'll say my last point was we'll go with the guards, the backup guards. You got anything else you want to wrap up with?
We are gonna
preview Purdue later this week.
Yeah, that's for the for the most part. I think that covers a lot of what. How about this? A couple of weird end of games, right? Where
okay. So I'm glad you brought that up. Welcome to college basketball now.
Yeah.
Guys are going to go for the throat and try to put more points up because every point matters. And we talk about now in this analytics age with your resume and your net and margin of victory matters. And if you don't hit that number that you're supposed to hit, it hurts you. And Auburn didn't hit that number in this game, but those late threes helped. Auburn only dropped 2 in the net from Saturday to Sunday. I get it. I think people are just gonna have to get used to it. Chattanooga didn't really take any offense to it, I think, but that's also just kind of how the game's played now. And look, if you're smoking somebody and you've already got that number, call the dogs off. It's over. We got it. Let's get out of here. But if it's like, man, we could probably use it. And this ain't a gambling thing. This isn't a point spread thing like in Vegas. This is like a point spread thing for like analytics purposes.
And the game Auburn just played, right? You had what was the game where it was like there was still stuff going on? Not Chattanooga. Wasn't there another game where you had I think there's late scoring in NC State. Yeah, there was like late and guys were still playing defense and stuff late. Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of
different. It's different.
Yeah.
But that's why. That's the situation. And it's not. You're not trying to start something. It's not running up the score. It's not being class. It's like no, you were doing something for your numbers because every little bit helps. And the way like net, Ken Palm, all these numbers that feed into the NCAA's team sheets, like it's literally every possession matters. And so that's why you have those kind of situations. But yeah, the people are, there were some people who were like, man, this could start a fight in the handshake line. It's like, no, like, they know the deal. People know the deal now. Like it's just a completely different game the way it is. It's just a completely different game. There was a last season or the last 2 seasons, I remember Bruce Pearl saying after the game, for a couple of big wins Auburn had, there was like, we were not trying to run up the score. We're just trying to help our math. And it's like, look, no disrespect to these guys. So it's like, that's just kind of the way the sport is now. All right. Like we said, we are going to preview Auburn-Purdue later this week.
It's also I would point out real quick, like in most of the world, that's how basketball's played.
Yes.
Like the thought that like you're playing to the whistle.
Oh, yeah.
And you're not taking cheap shots or anything, but like the thought that the game's well in hand and there's a minute and a half left, let's just dribble out and not take I think guys, and I think part of that's,
you see it a lot in the NBA. Part
of that's an analytics based approach. Part of that is when you're thinking about like modern college basketball, some of these kids like that opportunity with the ball, that play, especially if you're Chattanooga facing Auburn, like that possession could matter when you're pitching yourself at the end of the season in the portal.
Yeah.
Like, being able
your numbers matter. Your numbers definitely matter.
And your numbers against
teams like that,
against the best teams you played.
But yeah, we will preview Auburn-Purdue later this week. I will be heading to Indianapolis on this weekend.
You ever been to Indianapolis?
Yeah, it was in Indianapolis right before COVID hit. It was literally the last thing we did at the Athletic, like as a group before I got laid off. I was there. It was like during the combine, and it was like freezing the whole time. It's apparently like bitterly cold there right now because it's bitterly cold here by comparison. But apparently it's supposed to like warm up by the end of the week, so hopefully it'll be good. What to say though, real quick? Couple shout outs. Number one, a personal shout out, an individual shout out, because he's listening and he's an Inner Circle member, subscriber, Andy Burcham. I sat by the radio crew for the game. They had an open seat. I was like kind of just sitting around talking with them before the game, and so I got to sit like right beside the broadcast partnership. So Andy and Coach Dickey, that was a whole lot of fun. I don't think I got on the air at any point. I don't think I made a lot of noise. I was on my best behavior. That was really cool.
They used to so at Troy, when I was like I've done a simulcast where I've done the ESPN Plus call, and we've carried it on the radio. Before we were doing that, when they had a separate ESPN Plus crew and then me next to them, they eventually had to move me because my call was coming in through the crowd mic of the of the ESPN Plus of the ESPN Plus crew. So you'd watch ESPN Plus, and there's just this guy also calling the action. That you hear exactly. You're hearing that like while the ESPN Plus guys are trying to call. So yeah, it's always fun to invade someone else's.
The
broadcast.
Second one is a collective shout out,
and always a shout out to Andy Burcham.
Oh,
the best.
And Coach Dickey, like great, love.
Got to see him in Vegas briefly. Oh yeah, and Andy actually talked to Andy at the Goalish press conference about this, and it was like he was he was like, oh, we could have it's too bad we didn't get to talk more in Las Vegas. I was like, yeah, but you were on the air. Like it's the one thing. Like we would have talked a little bit more, but you were doing your job. You were doing a broadcast while we were talking.
Also, want to say shout out to Dan. I'm not kidding. Like a dozen people, Observer subscribers.
Yeah,
even shout out. Had people yelling at me.
Yes,
it was really cool though. I'm at it. There's so many of them. If I start trying to read off names and remember names, I'm going to miss somebody. So I'm not going to. But you know who you are.
Yeah.
And
the State Farm sickos.
Yeah. Y'all were great.
The whole gang.
Speaking of which, while we're on this point, before we switch over to a little bit of football to wrap up, AuburnObserver.com got plenty of stuff out there for you. I'm going to have this podcast out today. This is free for everybody. But if you want to listen to the preview podcast later this week, if you want to read the coverage from this weekend against Chattanooga, if you want to read the Sebastian Williams-Adams interview from last week that I thought was really, really good, not because of how I wrote it, it was just literally all of his answers.
Do we call them free-for-alls when it's an Observer podcast?
Maybe.
That's not by the paywall?
Yeah, you got mailbags, we got football coverage, you got the roster tracker on the football side. It's a perfect time to subscribe right now to the Observer, AuburnObserver.com. It's usually $6 a month or $60 a year. But if you're a new subscriber, $45.
Wow.
For your first full year. So think about it.
Giant.
You will get all of football off season, all of next football season, the regular season, and the start of basketball season, the rest of this basketball season, You get all that.
The next 12 months.
For just $45.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff to talk about over the next 12 months.
There'll be so much to talk about. This is the time to do it. AuburnObserver.com. You don't need a special code or a link or anything like that. That's just offered to everybody. Also, that deal works if you're giving a gift subscription.
Wow.
$45. So we've had plenty of you do this already, which is really, really cool. If you want to give the Observer as a Christmas gift, it's super easy to do. You can just click the gift button in the subscription page. All you got to do is have their email address that you want to set it. You can set exactly when you want it to go live. So you want to do it Christmas morning. You have a Christmas party you're doing. You have a special time where you give gifts. You can set it to the exact minute it'll go live. They'll get an email and they'll be in. And if you're an Observer subscriber and you buy that gift, I will put some free time on your account for giving the gifts to the Observer. We do that every year, and plenty of you have already taken advantage. Make sure you do that. Once you give a gift, shoot me an email with a receipt, or I can look it up on our end, and you'll get some free time on your account.
You could give this gift on Christmas morning, or Santa could bring it early.
Yeah,
I mean, this is nuts.
And again, we talk a lot about Christmas on here, but like Hanukkah starts.
That's right.
I think it starts tonight.
That's right.
As we're recording this, plenty
the first of 8 nights.
Festivus. Any other holiday that you're celebrating this time of year, AuburnObserver.com, send your gift. I'll tell you this. I won't say his name, but you want to talk about how dedicated to the cause some of our listeners are. So there is an Auburn Observer subscriber out there who, by winning the bracket contest,
oh wow,
in the last few years, has a lifetime subscription to the Observer. They never have to pay ever again. That's what they did for winning the bracket contest. That person is giving out gift subscriptions.
How about that, huh?
Knowing that they don't get free time because the free time is infinite. So that was really, really
that's
cool.
like the end of a Christmas Carol.
That person is getting some Observer merch sent to them for free because
we're sending them the fine fat goose in the window.
We're sending you koozies and a bunch of stickers. How about that? I'll tell you this. I even have a very few of the old stickers.
Oh.
The very old ones. Like the original.
I don't even have one of the old ones.
Like day one ones. That might find their way into that package as well. All right, Dan, let's talk some football before we go. No real news since
and as always, 0% funded by sportsbooks.
Yes.
0%
AI.
0% AI, the Observer promise to you.
No coaching news since then. We're still trying to figure out what the tight end coach is going to be. I think as we were recording this, I don't think anything has broken since we've started here. But we did our last podcast. For those of you who aren't subscribers, our last podcast we went coach by coach through the new staff and game by game through the new schedule. You can check that out if you haven't listened to that yet. But the big news since we last did our podcast on Thursday, Dan, the news of Malcolm Simmons hitting the transfer portal. Real quick, the transfer portal names we know. You know what we have? We have two. We have two things I want to talk about here on the football roster side. But transfer portal names we know of right now: Jackson Arnold, Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, Horatio Fields, Hollis Davidson, Antonio Coleman, Caleb Wheatland, and Rayon Schrader, I believe, are all the ones we know about right now. Malcolm being probably the big one to this point, the biggest one to this point for Auburn. Dan, I can say the last couple of weeks since the hire had been made, there was a push. Auburn was wanting to have Malcolm Simmons back, like saw him as a guy that would really fit in this offense with Alex Golesh.
10 catches for 338 yards and both of his touchdowns in the games after the coaching change last year for Malcolm Simmons.
Yeah, which also means like before then he had like not a ton of production. So the last couple of games, he had I think he had another big catch against Vandy as well. He had that third and long screen. Yeah. So came on strong towards the end of the year. Very interested to see where he ends up going and kind of what that looks like. We had talked
338 of his 457 yards came after the Kentucky game.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. I think Malcolm could have really, really fit in this offense moving forward, but doesn't surprise me that, you look up and the head coach that recruited you and the position coach that recruited you are not there right now. Other guys have left in your room.
And after the way you finished the season, you could be something of a commodity.
Sure.
Out there in the portal market.
We had talked about how the fact that him being from close to home, like right up the road at Benjamin Russell in Alex City, like that might have helped, but he's obviously entering the portal. That really leaves Cam Coleman as the big one at wide receiver to watch moving forward. We'll see how that one shakes out. Bryce Kane, other ones. I wanted to say this, and I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, but this is something that's just been kicking around in my head. Auburn's, Hugh Freeze made a very big, thing. He's like, we got to get elite receivers here. Something that Auburn had not really done in its history. This is what I do. Here's what they got. And, you had moments, but you never really got and there's plenty of reasons for that, not just all on the receivers, but never really got the full blast of that Freeze 4. 2 of them are already gone now.
And Bryce has played sparingly.
Yeah. And that's – I'm really interested to see what kind of the approach is going to be moving forward. Obviously, Cody Burns, wide receivers coach, Joel Gordon's track record as offensive coordinator, Alex Golsh's track record with offenses. I'm very interested to see what they end up doing at wide receiver, because I'm of the opinion that, there might be just as many really good passing attacks in college football that were built with guys who weren't elite recruits as there were. There's so much of it that's how much of it is scheme and how much of it is dudes. I think the best ones there have been kind of the overlap, right? Scheme and dudes.
And I think that the suspicion or the hope with the Freeze 4 would be that receiver talent can just be like a tidal wave, right? That if your receivers are good enough, it can cover up
right
any problems with your scheme, any problems with your offensive line, any problems with your quarterback. And I guess the last 2 years showed you that's not that's not how it played out at Auburn. Was that overwhelming talent receiver? Because remember, you have KLS in there in the second year, and then what you had this past year, and it's even with some of the more stocked receiver rooms in program history, it didn't generate. I mean, it didn't make a huge difference on the raw numbers, and it certainly didn't lead to drastically different results in wins and losses.
And so, look, I'm never going to be the one to sit here and say talent, stars don't matter. They do. Obviously, Cam Coleman has been a guy that makes, that 5-star rating really, really popped, and having that talent matters. But it's I think we've seen over the years, okay, Ohio State's get as much talent as you can at wide receiver and let those guys eat. Works for them. Alabama had a stretch where they did that. But I think you've seen with
those are places also investing heavily a lot of other spots on the field.
Well, it's at Tennessee, Golish had some really good receivers that weren't household name wideouts. They weren't, these big name guys. Got big numbers at USF, obviously, without, elite talent, a wide receiver. I just wonder, of course, if you can get a Cam Coleman, if you have a 5-star in your backyard, go get him. If you have I think you're going to want blue chip talent at wide receiver, but putting so much effort and so much energy into this is how we win is recruiting the best of the best at wide receiver. I think in an era where you have to manage your salary cap, so to speak, where you have to manage your NIL money, is that the way you need to do it? Because I think you can get really good results through the air without, these are the very best, recruits in the country. These are the very best wide receivers. We got to get them. We got to get them. We got to get them.
This is a labored metaphor, but I would almost view it as the tires on your car are important, right? Because without them, you're not going very far. And if they're
but you need an engine and a frame.
Exactly. But having the greatest tires
It can make a difference.
Yeah, it can make a difference. But if your only advantage over the competition is your tires, you're probably not winning the Daytona 500.
Right.
Like there's a lot of other things that you need too. And I think that for Auburn, the belief that, well, if you invest correctly and heavily at receiver, these other things can be concealed. I just think that like now it's a question of, like, again, not to diminish the importance of having quality wide receivers, but if you don't if you
I think having better quarterback play and better offensive line play is a higher priority. And I think at Auburn, maybe having better running back play is a better priority for your offense. I just, and that's something that I would have, it's like the last couple of years have been in some regards a science experiment. It's like, let's see what happens if you try a receiver first approach. And then you get into year 3 with a coaching staff, and year 2 with these receivers, and you're having games where those guys aren't getting anything, and you're getting nothing on offense. It's not a cure-all. Kind of like how recruiting in general is just not a cure-all for everything, which makes me think. It makes me wonder what happens here in this new era where, yes, if Auburn can get blue chip talent at wide receiver, they should absolutely go do it. But does that need to be the identity of your recruiting strategy? Does that need to be your calling card? Probably not. You want to have elite talent at wide receiver for sure, but it's like I go back to that 2019 LSU team. Yeah, Jamar Chase was a 5-star. I think Terrace Marshall might have been a 5-star too. Like Justin Jefferson was a 3-star. Like you can find and develop at that position.
And if it's about allocating your resources, if you've got 3 guys that the market thinks are number 1 wide receivers on your team, how much did that cost you? And what did you forego in order to have those 3 guys? It's like if you have if you spend a lot on your starting quarterback and you spend a lot on your backup quarterback, and this is more like in the pros, like in the NFL, like if you say, well, quarterback's real important, got a star quarterback, and we're going to shop at the top of the market for a backup. It's like, you're spending what percentage of your overall roster? You're spending that on the quarterback.
But I think to that point is like in the NFL, doing that at quarterback is better than doing that at wide receiver. I think the Chiefs have been a great example, and I know they're not having a great year this year, but like the Chiefs were a great example of like, well, we have Mahomes, and it's like we can put anybody out there, and we're going to figure it out.
But it's also I think the thinking in the NFL is if you're spending a lot on your starting quarterback, an expensive backup quarterback is a luxury, and it's maybe a luxury you can go without if you need help elsewhere on your roster. And I would say beyond, especially in an era where it's like, I mean, I don't know how much the numbers as far as, well, you can only spend this much on your roster. Like, I don't know how much of that we're really, but in general, like, assuming you don't have unlimited funds and you have to make decisions about where to allocate. Yeah, I think if it's, if you're spending if you're spending $50,000 a month on candles,
how about
right?
This?
You're trying to balance your budget.
How about this? I don't know the numbers for everybody on the team, but I do know that the belief was in the highest paid. We don't have specifics of the highest paid players for Auburn this past season. Two of the top 5 are wide receivers, and it's like I don't know if that needs to be your strategy moving forward.
And the reports that you're citing, Malcolm and Eric Singleton were not 2 of those 5 players.
Right.
So it's like you keep doing the math on, well, Malcolm didn't stay for a second year for free.
Right.
And Eric Singleton came to Auburn from Georgia Tech.
Yeah, were you sitting here thinking like 4 of the top 10 were? And it's like, does that need to be what you need? But that's apparently, that's obviously what the previous staff tried, and that was their approach to the game.
And to be completely honest, if you told me that as it turns out, 4 of the top 10 players in NIL compensation were receivers on last year's team, I would believe that too. And I wonder how many teams, like of the top tier in college football, or the places that spend like top tier teams, I wonder how many of them would have taken the approach of 4 of our.
I think Ohio State probably could just because of who they have, but outside of that.
But you know what? The line of scrimmage ain't working for free at Ohio State.
No, not at all. By the way, just real quick, I heard Malcolm as an option in Indiana. That was just a number.
I think the way Malcolm finished the season, I could see and making plays in the Iron Bowl
the
like
way
that.
Indiana's doing right now.
I could see. To me, it wouldn't shock me at all if Malcolm's got a crazy market.
Also, before we go, Dan, official We knew it was coming, but Keldrick Falk going to the NFL. One more time for the folks at home.
Highland Home's finest. It don't matter. We've known this day was coming since Auburn flipped.
Basically,
Keldrick Falk a couple of years ago.
I was like probably like his first couple of practices at Auburn. I was like, oh no, this young man is different.
Yeah.
I'll say this was Keldrick. One of the best all around dudes I think we've ever had the pleasure of covering at Auburn. I put him in the tier with like Derek Brown, where it's like talent and like character and gets it.
I'll lump Derek Hall into that mix
Derek Hall's
as well.
a great example.
I think Derek Hall is both of those things, and
you see these guys that were like always great to talk to, always great with their time with the media, a leader, guys who were involved in their communities, guys that took their platform seriously. And we're also just heck of a football player.
Yeah.
And I know
you do all that, and then you're also a killer.
And it's one of those things. It's like Keldrick did not get the stats this season to be like first team All SEC, right? Xavier Atkins did, which good for him, and All American. Obviously, those are well deserved honors. He didn't get
for Auburn's first All American linebacker since Dansby.
Yeah,
is that what I saw? How about that?
Well, I mean, they had gone over a decade without an All SEC linebacker for Deshaun. Right? Because T-Will was their last one. But like for Keldrick, it was like, yeah, he didn't get the stats that like people are like, oh, that guy. But watch, he's going to be a top 10 pick. And it's like, here's why. Watch him every play. He's getting double teamed. He's getting triple teamed. The dude's making an impact. He's as impressive of a player as I've covered here in football. And Derek Hall, Derek Brown definitely.
And unfortunately, I think because of like the win-loss record of the team over the last 3 years.
Right. Guy never won a bowl game. Never, only went to one. Didn't have a winning season at any time at Auburn.
And it's like, I hope folks don't think like that's a reflection of, and I feel that way about a lot of the players over the last 5-6 years, where it's like, yeah, they didn't get to have a good record in the Iron Bowl.
You mentioned Derek Hall. You mentioned Colby Wooden's right there with him. Tank Bigsby. There's several guys like that.
Yeah, and I mean it's like, and it's a shame that they don't get to experience the same kind of glory that some of these other that some other Auburn teams have gotten to experience.
It is a real shame, and it shows you that what was happening with the coaching and with how things were going with Auburn. Like talent alone was not given it, and what was happening up top was undercutting a lot of what a ton of talent you had, wasting it
because he sent that text. And I know the video's been making the round. Eugene Asante's in this conversation as well. I'd say as far as a gentleman and a pleasure to interact with, and a guy who, I mean, just went.
But I think Keldrick. I would put Keldrick. It's like Keldrick and Derek Brown are going to be in that bridge because they're like top 10 picks.
Yes,
and just like elite players.
But the reason I think of Eugene is because he sent that text to Hugh Freeze that where he talks about like if my role is, if the way I'm serving this program is by clearing a path for people that are going to get to enjoy the glory later, then that's my job, and I will serve in that regard.
There are a lot of guys who did that for a while.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately,
maybe they'll eventually get to see it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're still in the wilderness.
Waiting.
You're still clearing brush and trying to get out of the woods. But
shout out to Keldrick Falk, man. Just as fun and as good of a defensive lineman as since Derek, just a game wrecker. And again, the stats did not do him justice, like the way he could impact it. And I think we're going to see it because he's probably going to be going rather early in this next draft. And he deserves. And again, I will always talk about how cool it is that dude is from Highland Home, right?
I mean,
that's not an area of the state that has ever been like really good at producing like high level talent. Play 1A football, man, and like it's just really cool that you don't have to go to a football factory. You don't have to play at a 7A school. You don't have to be from one of these like super talent rich areas. sometimes these special guys are just there, and
Well,
it's like it makes you. I think it just kind of makes you appreciate it a little bit more.
I remember that's something that we heard when J.C. Hart committed to Auburn a couple years ago. The idea that like, yeah, you don't need to. I mean, I'm sure you can make life easier in certain ways.
Yeah, he could have played at Auburn High.
But like, if you want, like, you can get to the SEC from
you can be pretty dang good
from
at
1A football in Alabama, and you can be pretty good at it. And Keldrick is
Not
another.
only can you get to the SEC,
example.
you could be a top 10 pick.
You can get to the end.
Yeah,
you can play 3 years and
you can be 3 and out and be as prized of a prospect as you could. Again, it's not like he had a lot of team success he can point to. He's like, wow, Auburn's awesome, and this is the guy. The reason why. It's like, no, watch the film. Like he's different.
How often, especially this season, like, would you see just like scouts shoulder to shoulder over there watching the Auburn
Just watching Keldrick?
Just watching the defensive line do drills, watching Keldrick throw the sled over, like juggle a couple of different sleds.
There was a practice at one point where it was like they were doing special teams and Keldrick's not on special teams, and it was him and I want to say Darian Smith. And like Darian was just serving as like, I'm going to play offensive tackle, and you're going to just work on pass rushing moves. And they were the only two. There wasn't a coach over there. Those were the only 2 guys over there. And every NFL scout in attendance was watching that. 100 and something people are doing everything else all across the field, and it was that little corner of the defensive field they were just locked in on that. And so, congrats to Keldrick. I'm really looking forward to see where he does moving forward. And again, I want to see what he does in the NFL. Derek Hall's having a good start. Derek Brown, man, has like one of the best defensive tackles in the game. Like, has quickly become one of the best defensive players in the game this season. So really, really cool to see.
Which wasn't, I don't think, was all that shocking if you watch Derek at Auburn. And I mean, there was. I don't want to get the teams wrong. I know
he's had to bounce back from injury.
But even going back to like draft night, I remember like a couple of the teams that passed on Derek Brown, like that was the big debate in the room was, do we take the guy we ended up taking? Or I know the Lions, like Matt Patricia at 3, they took a defensive back, and it's like he was fighting. He was like, and I know it's easy for a defensive line guy. It's like, of course that's what but he's like, no, he was like, it's Derek Brown is the play, and they go in a different direction. And I don't believe that was the only team that was having those
and it was
serious
like
internals.
he had that, and I think Keldrick may get a little bit of this in the draft process too. It's just like you got too much kind of like PFF like nerd ball like stuff where it was like, do you really want to do that on a guy who's a defensive tackle who's not an elite pass rusher? And it's like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
How about the fact that like and like Keldrick had this the last 2 seasons as well. It's like, oh, when that dude's on the field, it is tough for you to run the football. Period. Like,
and it's not like you have to pull Derek Brown off the field on 3rd and long.
No,
right? Like I've seen him pick up offensive linemen and throw them at the quarterback to like get sacks that way. So yeah. Anyways, now it's awesome to see.
Shout out to Keldrick, man.
And shout out to Keldrick, and I think just like a permanent shout out to Derek Brown, right? Like that's like just a recurring shout out to Derek Brown and a lot of these other guys that we've been able to cover the last few years.
All right, that'll do it. We'll be back later this week to talk Auburn-Purdue.
Since this turned into like a Auburn in the pros sort of thing, Shedrick? Yeah. Shedrick Jackson catching passes for the Raiders.
While we were recording this, KLS had his first career NFL touchdown.
Hey! All right. And I believe Nehemiah plays quite a bit. Nehemiah Pritchett plays quite a bit for the Seahawks.
Who are really good. And so you could see Derek Hall and Nehemiah Pritchett potentially playing important snaps down the stretch in the NFL. Yeah, awesome stuff. We'll be back. We'll preview Auburn-Purdue. We'll talk any other football that's come up. We got stuff coming up on the newsletter side. Roster tracker still going. Great time, like we said, to subscribe to the Observer. That'll do it. What you got?
I don't think. Yeah, you know what? I think we've gone long enough. We could do some more. Did you eat anything interesting in Atlanta?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's it's a there and back thing. Like, you're at this point where it's like, okay, like, going to Atlanta, I do that all the time.
I've got before we record again, I will be going to Norfolk
That's right.
That's right. I got Troy and Old Dominion on Wednesday morning in a field trip game to start conference play. ODU and Troy. A lot of Sun Belt teams playing like one game Wednesday, Thursday, and then we will resume conference play after the New Year's Day is when a lot of the
I got the Big Ten does it.
Yeah, I think that's how we're going to do it. But so yeah, Troy and ODU. There was it's a game a couple of years ago, Justin. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I think it would be the 22-23. So it would be the 2023 Sun Belt tournament when Troy and Old Dominion are playing, and it comes down to Old Dominion's got a healthy lead in the fourth quarter. Troy comes back. Old Dominion up 2 with the ball. And they used 6 players on the inbounds play.
Oh, that's right.
Old Dominion. So they had a player inbounding the ball, and then they had 5 players running around trying to get open and catch the pass, including someone who had not legally checked into the game yet. And then after they inbound the ball, the player who had not checked into the game yet is pulled off the floor by the bench, by her teammates. The referees don't notice this, and while this is happening, Old Dominion scores because it's 6-on-5, and
that traditionally is tough to guard.
Right, and if it had been caught, I believe it's a tech and two free throws in the ball.
Right,
and so I can't imagine ODU did it on purpose, because if you get caught up 2 with, in the closing seconds of a game, it could be the difference between winning and losing. But yeah, just a crazy play there. That and for it to happen in a conference tournament game, when someone's season is over because of this, it was and that was the first time Troy ever played ODU as a Sun Belt team, and yeah, they got us with a dusty finish. They're at they did the referee switcheroo. But I had never seen that before. The idea that five players are running around while the 6th one inbounds the ball, and then after the inbounder gets it in, one of those players that was running around just jumps off the floor, and the Troy, you can watch the Troy defenders like, well, what do I do here? Like they're using twin magic on me, and so. But anyways, and so Troy and ODU continuing a rivalry that started that day in Pensacola a couple of years ago. I'll be calling that one live from Chartway Arena on Wednesday morning.
All rise for acting's highest honor, Judge Reinhold.
Judge Reinhold is neither a real judge nor has he received acting's highest honor.